You're planning your trip to Switzerland and have so many questions about the Swiss transportation system. There are tons of train pass options, which is confusing, and they're not cheap either. So you're probably just considering the Swiss travel pass because it's easiest to understand. Well, hop on board, because today we're going to review the top Swiss train passes so you can decide which one is best for your trip to Switzerland. It's going to be a wild ride, so here's what we're going to be covering. How can I know which train pass is right for me? Do I even need a train pass? Then we'll review the 5 most popular passes. And then we'll help you pick the best train pass for you by considering your budget, length of trip, age, and planned activities. And finally, we'll end with some basic questions and answers.
Quick question. Which type of wine goes best with food? Well, in order to answer that, we'd have to know what type of food we're talking about, right? In the same way, choosing a train pass is about knowing what's on the menu for your trip and then pairing it with a pass designed to complement that trip beautifully. A train pass is not best simply because the Swiss Tourism Board says it is, or because we or anybody else on YouTube says so. The only way to really know is to price out your exact itinerary and compare all the options yourself, considering cost savings and convenience. But you're probably here because you don't want to do that. You wish someone else could give you guidance. If we haven't met, I'm Brett. My wife and I have spent months in Switzerland at a time, including 3 months in Interlaken this summer. I love traveling Switzerland, maximizing our budget, and crunching numbers. Which works in your favor because I've built a mega spreadsheet with all sorts of itineraries and scenarios designed to really grasp which Swiss transportation pass is best for nearly every kind of traveler in every situation. I genuinely want to help you maximize your trip to Switzerland while minimizing your budget. But you might be wondering, do I even need a train pass?
Well, we had this fantastic idea to film the rest of this video at 2 of our favorite spots just outside of Interlaken. Here's what the view normally looks like, and here's what it looks like today. Plus it's cold, and windy, and raining, so we're gonna film the rest of this inside. No matter where you travel in the world, you have to consider the cost of transportation. And in Switzerland, you have a few options. You can rent a car, buy train tickets as you go, or purchase a train pass. Now we're going to talk later in the Q&A section about renting a car, but if your trip's going to bring you to the Swiss Alps, then you're going to need to use public transportation. Now you can just buy tickets as you go. This works great if you're flying into Zurich, Geneva, or Basel and you're just going to spend a weekend in those cities, or if you're hopping from one Swiss city to the next, like Zurich, Geneva, Basel, Bern, or Lucerne. And the reason that works is because when you stay in a lot of Swiss cities, you get a free guest card, which provides free public transportation in that area. Plus, if you're only visiting Swiss cities, it's pretty reasonably priced to get from one city to the next. But if your trip's taking you outside of any of the Swiss cities, you're probably going to want a train pass.
There are 2 main reasons to purchase a train pass: convenience and cost savings. And each of these passes provides some balance of the 2. The Swiss Travel Pass is the most advertised pass and the one you've most likely heard of. It's available for 3, 4, 6, 8, or 15 consecutive days at prices between 232 and 429 Swiss francs. It's a national pass covering trains, buses, boats, and trams all throughout Switzerland. The Swiss Travel Pass also functions as your ticket within the area of validity, so you won't have to buy a ticket every time you want to ride. While it covers the entire country, it does not fully cover most lifts, gondolas, or trains when you're in the mountains, so you'll have to purchase tickets when you're there. But at least the Swiss Travel Pass does give you a 50% discount on those journeys most of the time. We know that many of you plan to visit the beautiful Swiss Alps near Interlaken, so the next few passes are regional passes designed to give you a balance of cost savings and convenience when you're there. Each pass also functions as your ticket as long as you're riding a route covered by that particular pass. Now, most of our experience is in traveling Switzerland during the spring, summer, and autumn months. So if you're planning a ski trip, unfortunately, a lot of this info is going to be different. The first is the Top of Europe Pass. This is like the Swiss Travel Pass for the Interlaken area, getting all of the attention and drowning out all the other options. It's available for 3 to 8 consecutive days and costs between 249 and 349 francs. As a regional pass, it's only valid within the Jungfrau region near Interlaken, but it does cover journeys to Lauterbrunnen and Grindelwald, the mountain trains to Mürren and Wengen, lifts to Fürst, Harderkulm, and Mannlichen, plus the cogwheel train to Schöne Platte. But the most notable benefit of this pass is that it covers you all the way up to the Jungfrau Joch, the highest railway station in Europe. Without a train pass, the journey here and back from Interlaken would set you back over 200 francs. But the Top of Europe pass covers one trip there for completely free. So that journey alone just about covers the cost of your pass. But that doesn't mean that it's always the best choice for your train pass, which we'll talk more about here in a moment. However, it does not cover the Schildhorn Bahn, which takes you up to the revolving restaurant where James Bond's On Her Majesty's Secret Service was filmed, or to the Berg Thrill Walk one station below. The journey here and back from the valley floor costs nearly 100 francs and is not covered by the Top of Europe pass. And it doesn't even provide a discount either. Next is the Jungfrau Travel Pass. This pass is available for 3 to 8 consecutive days and costs between 190 and 310 Swiss francs. It's basically the Top of Europe pass with a couple key differences. The final section of the ride to the Jungfrau Joch is only partially discounted, which means you'll pay 75 francs to go there during the summer months. But unlike the Top of Europe pass, the Jungfrau Travel Pass covers trains to Brienz and the boats on Lake Thun and Lake Brienz. Otherwise, these passes are effectively the same. The Jungfrau Travel Pass used to be the most offered pass in the Jungfrau region, but for whatever reason, I don't hear much about it anymore. The third pass for this region is one that doesn't get nearly the attention it deserves, and that's the Berner Oberland Pass. It's available for 3, 4, 6, 8, or 10 consecutive days, and it costs between 230 and 399 Swiss francs. It covers every single journey available with the Jungfrau Travel Pass, literally all of them. And like the Jungfrau Pass, it only discounts the journey to Jungfrau Joch. You'll still need to pay 99 francs to get there. But that's where the comparisons with other passes end, because you'll get so much more with this pass. You'll get a big discount on your visit to the Schildhorn, paying less than 45 francs for that journey. That's a savings of over 50 francs compared to other passes. But just check out this area of validity. You can travel all the way to Lucerne and Bern. You can reach Brig, which is the gateway to the Zermatt and the Matterhorn, and you can nearly reach Lake Geneva before ever having to pay an extra dime. But more than the scope of coverage, it's the experiences that count. You can visit the Niederhorn Mountain Ridge, the beautiful blue Oceanensee, and the historic Brienzer Rothorn. You can also ride city buses in Interlaken and Grindelwald. Seriously, there are so many benefits to the Berner Oberland Pass, it needs its own video. Look, I promise I'm not sponsored, I just love this pass. I first discovered it nearly a year ago, and it's quickly become the pass that I recommend to most visitors, including lots of family and friends who are visiting us here in Interlaken this summer. But before I get carried away, that doesn't guarantee it's best for you, so let's keep moving. The final pass I'll highlight before discussing scenarios is less of a pass and more like a discount card, but it's way more valuable than it first appears. We're talking about the Swiss Half Fare Card. The Swiss Half Fare Card is exactly what it sounds like. It provides you with a 50% discount on nearly every train, bus, boat, tram, and mountain lift all throughout Switzerland. It costs 120 francs and is valid for 1 month. It might be hard to appreciate a 50% discount when you're comparing it to those other passes that cover journeys at 100%. But let me show you a magic trick hiding up the sleeve of this little half fare card. Those columns showing reduced prices for the 3 regional passes we just covered, those are the prices you'll pay if you also hold the half fare card. Now I wanna make sure you're following me here because this is so awesome. Let's say you're gonna buy a 5-day Top of Europe pass. If you buy the half fare card first, you'll save 90 francs on the cost of your pass. But that's a bad deal, you say. I just paid 120 francs to save 90. Well, not so fast. You're probably flying to Switzerland, right? Which means you'll have to train to and from Interlaken. With the half fare card, you'll save approximately 75 francs on your journeys to and from the airport, pulling you ahead by a total of 45 francs compared to having no half fare card at all. And every other ride you take that's not covered by the Top of Europe pass will come at a 50% discount because of your half fare card, meaning your potential savings could be much greater. Here's another example. You're planning a longer trip to the mountains and you really want to explore. So you've decided to purchase the 10-day Berner Oberland Pass. This costs 399 Swiss francs on its own, but if you hold the half fare card, you'll only pay 259 francs. Did you catch that math? You'll save 20 francs out of the gate just by purchasing the half fare card. I'm not making this stuff up. This is so awesome. In fact, if you're finding this awesome and helpful, hit the like button to let me know. That'll help more people like you maximize their trip to Switzerland while minimizing their budget. There are a few special circumstances where you might consider an option other than the passes I've outlined here, but we'll hit those scenarios later.
Whew, we have covered a lot of ground so far. If you need to, take a deep breath because in this next section, we're gonna help you figure out exactly which train pass is best for your next trip to Switzerland.
Okay, here's the deal. I've been working on a ridiculous spreadsheet for nearly a year with dozens of sample Swiss trip itineraries. I've calculated the total cost of every trip with each type of train pass, plus without any pass for comparison. Here's why that matters to you. I've done all the research to help you find the best train pass that perfectly blends cost savings and convenience. The first step to help you pick the best train pass is to figure out where you'll be traveling in Switzerland. So I'll be discussing trips just to the Jungfrau region near Interlaken, trips that include the Jungfrau region but also other parts of Switzerland, and then we'll talk about trips that don't go to the Jungfrau region at all. Then I'll recommend the best Swiss train pass based on your age, your planned activities, and the length of your trip. Ready? Let's go. First, let's start with the trip that focuses only on the Jungfrau region near Interlaken, because there are so many reasons people visit here. It's an athlete's paradise with tons of hiking, paragliding, and plenty of other outdoor activities. Plus, you can find snow all year round at the top of the Jungfrau Joch. To acquaint you with the area, Interlaken is here and is basically the gateway to the area and the transportation hub. The Lauterbrunnen Valley runs in towards the mountains from Interlaken and has Wengen on one side and Mürren on the other. When we talk about the Jungfrau region, we include the Lauterbrunnen Valley plus all of the areas near Grindelwald. And then you have the Berner Oberland, which really is all of the areas outside of the Jungfrau region, all the way towards Bern, Lucerne, and down towards Zermatt. So let's start by talking about a 3 to 5 day trip in this area. That's enough time to really explore the Jungfrau region, including the best of the Lauterbrunnen Valley and Grindelwald. The first question you want to ask is, are you on a tight budget? Because if you are, we recommend that you go with the half fare card, pay your 120 francs, and then simply buy tickets as you go at a 50% discount. Now, I'm assuming you won't be trying to ride every single mountain lift in the area during your short visit, because that would not be considered a budget trip. The half fare card pairs beautifully with the well-designed SBB mobile app. You can purchase the card online, download the app, connect your half fare card to your app, add a payment option, and start buying tickets. You'll rarely have to visit a ticket office during your trip, and checking timetables and buying tickets will only take you seconds. Now for the rest of this video, I'm just gonna assume that you now know the half fare card is the best option if you're traveling on a strict budget. But if you're not on a tight budget, the second question you're gonna ask is, do you plan to ride most of the high mountain trains and lifts? We're talking about experiences like Harter Kulm, Grindelwald Fürst, Schinnige Platte, Männlichen, Eigergletscher, and of course the Jungfrau Joch and Schildhorn. If you plan to visit fewer than one of these per day, choose the half fare card for the greatest cost savings. But if convenience is really important to you, you might still choose to buy a pass even though you'll likely pay more than you will with the half fare card. If you do plan to take lots of mountain excursions, then it's on to question number 3. And that is, are you visiting the Jungfrau Joch? Remember, this can cost over 200 francs without a pass. So if you are going there, choose the half fare card plus the top of Europe pass. That's because this pass covers that journey for completely free and will save you at least 63 francs compared to other options. If you're not planning to visit the Jungfrau Joch, then the choice really comes down to your age. If you're 25 and older, you'll want to choose the half fare card plus the Berner Oberland pass. I've already shared my love of the Berner Oberland pass, but the reason this makes the most sense is because it covers everywhere that the top of Europe pass will take you, plus so much more. The two passes cost basically the same amount, so everywhere that you visit that's not included in the top of Europe pass will add to your savings. If you're between the ages of 16 and 24, then choose the Swiss Travel Pass Youth. In this case, you'll be receiving a 30% discount on the Swiss Travel Pass, which makes this the best option for you young whippersnappers. It's the exact same pass as the Swiss Travel Pass for adults, but I guess they assume you have no money, and hey, take advantage. While the passes we've covered here are great for a shorter trip to the region, what about a longer one? With 6 to 10 days in the area, we highly recommend that you explore outside of the Jungfrau region into what's known as the Berner Oberland. Some of the best views and most picturesque lakes can be found a little further from Interlaken, and you'll probably enjoy many of these with fewer tourists as well. In nearly every case, The half-fare card plus the Burner Overland Pass is the best option, even if you don't really plan to venture too far from Interlaken. In a few scenarios, the Swiss Travel Pass Youth might save 16 to 24-year-olds a little bit of money, but you'd actually have to buy tickets more often than with the Burner Overland Pass. And if you're coming into this region to get into the mountains, which is why you come, then it'll end up saving you tons of money in the long run. So what about a longer trip? For example, 11 or more days in the region. If you think of yourself as a slow traveler, then buy the half-fare card. It's perfect for gap year students, for retired couples who want to take their time in Switzerland, and for digital nomads like us. Another option would be to strategically buy a pass for a few higher travel days. If you spend more than 2 weeks in this area, you're probably going to see your fair share of clouds and sun. So if you see a few clear days forecast back to back, maybe you could buy a pass for those days and then ride every single mountain lift in the area during that time. It's worth making special mention of the Top of Europe season pass. We each bought the half-fare card plus one of these bad boys. It's basically the exact same pass as the Top of Europe pass, but instead of only lasting for 8 days, it's valid for almost 7.5 months. We're here for nearly 3 months this summer, and for just a little bit more than the 8-day pass, we have unlimited access to transportation, including the Jungfrau Joch. That reminds me, a 1-year half-fare card is available in addition to the 1-month card geared towards tourists. It costs just 185 francs and can be renewed for 165 francs every year after that. I know we're really just now digging in, but if this has already been helpful, please hit that like button. After you do, stick around till the end of the video because I'm gonna be showing you a simple way that you can figure out which pass is best for you in less than 5 minutes of your time. Okay, moving on to the next scenario. So what about a trip that includes the Jungfrau region and other parts of Switzerland? There are so many great places to visit, such as Lucerne, Zermatt, Appenzell, and Lake Geneva, just to name a few. With up to 10 days total, including 3 to 5 in the Jungfrau region, you're gonna find a lot of similarities to what we already recommended. First, consider how much time you'll spend riding trains and lifts in the mountains. If you ride less than 1 per day while you're in the Jungfrau region and you're 25 or older, then choose the half-fare card. If you're 16 to 24 years old, then go with the Swiss Travel Pass Youth, even if you'll be visiting the Jungfrau Joch. But what if you do plan to spend lots of time in the mountains? Well, in that case, it really comes down to whether or not you'll be visiting Jungfrau Joch. If you will, go with a half-fare card plus the Top of Europe Pass. But if you won't, choose the half-fare card and the Burner Overland Pass. And this applies no matter your age. What you do is buy your pass for the number of days you'll be traveling in the Jungfrau region, and then use the half-fare card to buy tickets at a 50% discount for the rest of your trip outside the region. But what if your total trip time is longer? Say 11 to 15 days with only 3 to 5 in the Jungfrau region. This is kind of the sweet spot for the Swiss Travel Pass. It's the best choice if you're 16 to 24 years old, 25 or older and not planning to visit Jungfrau Joch, or 25 and older and planning to ride fewer than 1 mountain lift or train per day in the Jungfrau region. If you're 25 or older, planning to take at least 1 mountain excursion per day in the region, and planning to visit Jungfrau Joch, then buy the half-fare card plus the Top of Europe Pass. But you might enjoy the convenience of a Swiss Travel Pass when you're traveling away from the Jungfrau region, so either option would be a solid choice here. If your 11 to 15 day trip will include 6 to 10 days in the Jungfrau region, then the only consideration really comes down to your age. If you're 16 to 24, go with the Swiss Travel Pass Youth. If you're 25 or older, then buy the half-fare card and the Burner Overland Pass. And this is especially true if your itinerary will connect Interlaken with Bern and or Lucerne. But what about a trip to Switzerland that does not include the Jungfrau region? In most cases, the half-fare card alone will be the best buy. You don't want to spend your entire Swiss trip on trains, and that's about the only way to make up the cost of the Swiss Travel Pass. Maybe convenience is really valuable to you, but even then, buying tickets with the SBB mobile app is plenty convenient for me. However, I do have one really intriguing trip idea for you. You've heard of those long-distance scenic trains like the Glacier Express, the Bernina Express, the Gotthard Panorama. These trains connect beautiful landscapes with charming towns and villages on either side. So what if you chose to ride 4 or 5 of those scenic trains during your trip, and then in between, spend 1, 2, 3 days at each hub along the way? Those scenic train rides on those long days could easily cost about 100 franc. But you wouldn't want a pass covering you on the days you're just hanging out in one of those towns or villages. In this case, the Swiss Travel Pass Flex might really shine. You could create a really cool 2 to 3 week itinerary, choosing to only use your Swiss Travel Pass Flex on those travel days. Now, while it's tempting to go with the Swiss Travel Pass Flex, you might actually find that the Eurail Pass is the best buy. And that's especially true if your trip itinerary takes you to or from another country. But now, what if that long scenic train trip actually includes time in the Jungfrau region? If you're 16 to 24, then choose the Swiss Travel Pass Youth Flex. If you're 25 and older and you plan to spend 5 or fewer days riding those scenic trains, go with the half fare card alone. And if you're 25 and older, but you expect to spend 6 or more days riding those long distance scenic trains, choose the Swiss Travel Pass Flex. I know that's been a ton of info to digest with lots of numbers and options, and I don't want you to get confused. So here in just a minute, I'm gonna give you a method to discover the best train pass for you in Switzerland in under 5 minutes. But before we do that, let's review some basic questions and answers. The first question you might ask is, why do you hate the Swiss Travel Pass? Look, there are no hard feelings here. The Swiss Travel Pass is kind of like that girlfriend that you really like and you want to make it work, but it just doesn't make sense. So I don't hate the Swiss Travel Pass, I just think that in most cases, there's a better option available.
What's the public transportation like in Switzerland? Well, for comparison, the United States is 238 times bigger than Switzerland, and our home state of Tennessee is 2.5 times larger. But this small country is packed with a whole lot of mountains, which means the Swiss are master engineers. They blast holes through mountains and drive trains through them, and I have never seen lifts on such steep mountain cliffs before. That same engineering prowess is what makes the Swiss so incredibly efficient. Imagine a place where trains, boats, and buses go pretty much everywhere in the country and arrive on time. And you basically have Switzerland.
The third question is, what about traveling with children? Regardless of the pass you choose, kids under the age of 6 ride free when traveling with you, assuming you have a valid pass or ticket. For kids aged 6 until their 16th birthday, ask for the Swiss Family Card when you buy your half fare card or your Swiss Travel Pass, because that will entitle them to free travel whenever they're accompanied by at least one parent. If you've purchased either the Top of Europe Pass or the Berner Oberland Pass, you can also get one of those passes for your child for only 30 francs. But there is this really intriguing statement on the Berner Oberland Pass website saying that the Swiss Family Card is now valid. Now, I'm not totally sure about this, but I think that what that means is if you, the parent, have a half fare card and a Berner Oberland Pass, and you've requested the Swiss Family Card, which you can do so for free, that should entitle your children up until they turn 16 to travel with you for free throughout Switzerland and throughout the entire validity range of the Berner Oberland Pass. All of that put together means that Switzerland can be a surprisingly budget destination for families traveling with children.
So why not just rent a car? The first reason is because trains are so easy, especially compared to driving, navigating, parking, and paying for gas. Plus, we assume you'll be visiting the mountains for at least some of your trip, and while a car might get you to the area, a car can't take you everywhere that lifts and trains will. So you're likely paying a ton for a rental car, and then you still have to pay a ton for trains in the mountains. Don't do that, just skip the car. However, there are 2 times where we would consider maybe renting a car in Switzerland. The first one is if you're visiting multiple countries and need a car for that, and Switzerland's in the middle of your trip. The second is if you're trying to explore off the beaten path in places where the trains don't really cover as much. But for most people on their first trip to Switzerland, or even their 5th, 6th, and 7th, the trains will get you everywhere you need to go.
Question number 5 is, how do I get phone service to actually use the SBB mobile app? When we arrived in Switzerland this summer, I went to a shop called Sunrise and bought a SIM card. For only 20 francs, I got the SIM card plus 20 whole francs of credit. And now every time we want to access the SBB mobile app to buy tickets, I've got the data to do so. To get this SIM card, all that they asked for was a passport and the address where we'd be staying. Thanks for sticking around with me till the very end. Like I said, I want to help you minimize your budget while maximizing your trip to Switzerland. To help you out, I've created this one-page download that clearly describes all of the details about Swiss train passes, which means you can truly find the best Swiss train pass for your trip in less than 5 minutes. Well, after all that, you might still have one more question, and that's, what else do I need to know about traveling to Switzerland? Well, we've made playlists about traveling Switzerland and traveling Switzerland on a budget, so check those videos out and we'll see you there.